di Amerika. Mudah-mudahan beliau sudah hadir dan kita undang juga bagaimana di Amerika, dan kalau ada nanti teman-teman dari daerah lain silahkan bergabung. Baik, tanpa berpanjang, kita mulai dengan Rany. The time is yours, Rany. Please.
Lebih ke emotionalsnya dari doctors dan juga.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak-bapak dan ibu-ibu yang saya hormati, nama saya Rany. I am a second generation Minang in Sydney. I was born here and I am an Australian citizen. In my talk last week, I actually mentioned my background in the study of international relations and my area of expertise in sustainable development. And in thinking about what I would talk about tonight, I certainly realized the parallels of this discussion with my work. So underpinning my talk tonight is essentially a question of the sustainable development and the future of the Minang community. So in other words, how do we meet the needs of the current Minang generations in Australia in a way that ensures the success of future Minang generations here too? So with this idea of sustainability in mind for the Minang people and the Minang community, my aim tonight is to identify some of the biggest challenges to secure the future success of Minang people in outside of the starting with our ability to attain sufficient religious knowledge.
Rany, your voice is not being heard.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just start again a little bit. So I was talking about this idea of sustainability. So thinking about this idea, my aim tonight is to identify some of the biggest challenges for the success of the Minang people outside of the Nagari. Starting with our ability in attaining our Islamic knowledge and skills amongst youth. So, modern Islamic scholars and leaders from among the Minang community, as well as in the Indonesian community generally in Australia, who can speak English and appeal to the younger generations to guide us through the issues of our time. Right now, many of us go online. We search for influential modern scholars who bridge this gap for young Muslims in Western countries. Leaders like Mufti Menk, Numan Ali Khan, Imam Omar Suleiman, so from the US and things like that. And because we can do this, we can seek this information online, we don't really feel a need to go to a physical space and gather other youth for Islamic.
No, I'm going.
Without a dedicated space, we don't realize we miss opportunities to share our lived experiences of Minang Muslim youth in Australia and to develop these higher order thinking skills that allow us to apply our religious knowledge to navigate the modern social pressures of living and growing up here in Australia. Secondly, it is becoming more common for the younger generations to marry outside the Minang culture. So we have non-Minang, non-Indonesian spouses among the youth, but they are an asset to the Minang community in Australia, except that we haven't really stopped to think about how to integrate them effectively into the Minang community. They have an outsider perspective and knowledge, which is a competitive advantage for the Minang community and for the future of the Minang community. They represent a new source of creativity, vision, innovation. landscape for Minang culture for the younger generations. So there is an issue here of how do we capitalize on their skills and give them the opportunity and the tools and the mechanisms to contribute directly into the Minang culture and community. And then finally, in terms of the big challenges, the younger Minang generations in Australia, we want to socialize in our own way. So free from, social engineering and pressures by our parents. Right now, there is a stigma amongst the youth that a surau in Australia would only be a place for prayer, or pengajian in Bahasa, or Bahasa Minang only. And what we need for this surau is to also represent a social hub for creativity and activity, social activity, which must not be exclusive to Minang activities, but also fulfilling the range of interests that we have developed here as a result of our life and values, Australian values. So going back to this idea of a sustainable future for the Minang youth, I am encapsulating not just the Minang youth in Australia, but I'm talking about the Minang youth all over the world, including the ones who remain at home. So when we think of the opportunities for a surau in Australia, we must realize the opportunities and the benefits for all future Minang youth, not just those in Australia. For example, going back to the first obstacle I mentioned regarding our Islamic education and not having this dedicated physical space to gather and share our lived experiences. When we take a sustainable development approach, there is an opportunity for a surau in Australia to be a place for emerging Minang scholars, for young Minang scholars. There is a place for young Minang scholars in Indonesia to come to Australia and understand the modern challenges for Indonesian Muslims, and to become that social bridge in our community, in our diaspora, between the young generation and the parents. And it's also an opportunity for them to come here and perfect the English language and train to a global audience. The surau can be a home away from home, also for Minang youth abroad to study, work and visit Australia. I mean, of course, right now with the pandemic and the shutdowns, this is not possible, but, in sort of a longer term approach than the immediate term. And this allows us to maintain our people-to-people links in the young generation. So these people-to-people links, this is already a priority when we think about at the national level between the Australian government and the Indonesian government when they look at strategies for long-term growth and success for both of our economies, our countries. And the Minang youth have the potential to shape both countries' political, economic and social partnerships into the future. So a surau in Australia is a way to secure a successful future for all Minang youth to be creative, to be innovative, to expand economic opportunities, to be thought leaders in society and engage in national debates and shaping social policy, influencing social policy, and to make sense of contemporary issues and events that affect us, our values, our culture. The Minang youth in Australia are a pool of skills and expertise to support, drive, and expand on, the economic, educational, and social initiatives from the Minang region. So, just in one person, me, I bring together government departments, NGOs, grassroots movements, and the private sector to address international issues. But, you know, across the Young Minang Professional Network in Australia, we have experts in business, we have engineers, we have teachers and childhood educators, we have lawyers, scientists, and future doctors. Among many other things. So young Minang professionals in Australia, like myself, we are ready and willing to contribute. But building the future for a globally connected Minang community, especially among the youth, will best succeed as a collective effort from the whole Minang region. Thank you.
Okay.